Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Hello, I'm Pauline James, CEO of Anchor HR and Associate Editor of the HR Gazette. I'm excited to be here today with another episode of The Next Chapter. For too long, careers have been described as if they peak and then wind down, but life does not follow a script, and neither should our work. In this series, we explore the choices and inspirations that emerge throughout our careers and lives. Whether it's continuing to build our careers, reinventing, giving back, or choosing brand new priorities, this is about defining success on our own terms. Dr. Suzanne Cook is a Canadian social gerontologist and adult educator whose work focuses on career development, aging, and the evolving nature of work. She currently serves as an educational developer in the School of Medicine at Toronto Metropolitan University, where she collaborates with faculty and community partners to design innovative learning experiences. Dr. Cook is known for her research on later life career transitions and second careers. She coined the term redirection to describe the growing shift toward longer, more purpose-driven working lives. Her CERC-funded Redirection project explored how mature workers navigate transitions into new roles and forms of contribution. Bringing together research and practice, she leads the Redirection Initiative through her consulting work, supporting individuals and organizations in navigating career transitions and lifelong learning. Her work has been published in The Gerontologist, featured in national media, and brought to life through her documentary, Redirection: Movers, Shakers, and Shifters. She holds a PhD in adult education and community development from OISE at the University of Toronto. Dr. Cook, I'm so pleased to be talking with you today. You have studied career transitions and reinvention in the later stages of careers. Can you share what inspired you to coin the term redirection and educate us on what it refers to?
Pauline, it's such a pleasure to be speaking with you today about redirection and later life career. I conduct research on career transitions, and redirection is a stage of career development where people shift into new occupations during the second half of life. And I coined this term during my doctoral research at the University of Toronto. In fact, my original focus was on volunteer work. And I was really interested if people on the cusp of retirement stayed in their comfort zones or if they stepped out and did something completely different and really stepped out onto a limb to pursue their volunteer work where they actively needed to learn new things. And my research indicated that they were able to accomplish both things. They were able to use transferable skills, and they also found opportunities for lifelong learning. And when I presented this research to the public, members of the audience said to me that they really wanted to do paid work in addition to their volunteer work in the community. And in fact, some of my research participants had also said that they were interested in paid work. And I was completely fascinated and turned to studying people who were redirecting from full-time work into a new challenge rather than planning for retirement in the second half of life. They were seeking fulfillment and also wanting to earn an income, and they needed to figure out what the next challenge was. And so I shifted from just looking at the volunteer work into doing paid work with that CERC study.
I'll note that your work has drawn on the research of Donald Super and his model. Just welcome hearing what you drew on and what you've changed with your research.
That's a great question. The original model of career development that Donald Super posed indicated that there was retirement. That was the last stage, was where career came to an end. My research indicates that that's not the situation. And that's not people's experiences. People are able to transfer skills and knowledge and experiences into other pursuits in life across the life course. Redirection is that stage where people do this. So whether they pursue volunteer work or whether they pursue a new paid work or other activities, they are using their skills, their knowledge, and their abilities and transitioning into something new, something that's fulfilling and meaningful to them. And so with the steps that I uncovered, adding on to Super's theory with this new stage of redirection, people redefine themselves, they explore and they discover new opportunities. They find incredible renewal during this process, and then they integrate their sense of self and come out the other side of this process. And it's very inspiring.
Can you tell us about what you found has changed about the choices people face in their later careers?
What's changed is that because of this new stage of redirection and people trying to find the next challenge, what comes next, it can take many months for this process to occur. And that is a challenge for many people. They don't expect that there'll be so many challenges and barriers in front of them to find their redirection, and they need support for this process. And it can be hard for them to find resources.
Thank you. And it's interesting because what you're describing is that individuals are driving this shift in society. It's not being enabled, supported, necessarily encouraged by society at large. It's individuals sorting out how to navigate this stage themselves, where they still are motivated to contribute. Can you share us a bit more about what changed and the choices people face at this juncture?
So what's shifted in our society is that people are interested in redirection. They want to find the next challenge. And because of this social shift, there isn't a lot of support for them to do this. What people find is that it takes a lot longer to redirect than they originally anticipated. It can be very challenging because it can take months, potentially even years, for them to find a new occupation. And there are many setbacks and obstacles and barriers that they can face. For example, they might need new educational credentials or certifications, and that can take time for them to complete those. And it also costs money as well as taking their energy. So that can be a challenge for people.
Can I ask if there was one thing that surprised you with your research related to later career transitions that you weren't expecting to uncover?
So actually a few things surprised me, Pauline. So related to what we just talked about, the length of time that it can take people months or even years, what surprised me was how resilient people needed to be to find ways to cope and manage the challenges and their emotions through this search for what comes next. And what was really surprising to me was that they were able to integrate and connect their passions and their interests with their talents and past experiences in their redirection. And they seemed very invigorated by the process. And so I was inspired by my research participants and how they found new meaning and fulfillment in later life by shifting and redirecting their career. They were so happy and looked back with feelings of accomplishment and satisfaction. They had really been on a journey and were in a better place and had a new lease on life. And it was inspiring to listen to them.
Thank you. Well, the documentary is certainly inspiring, and the stories that individuals kindly shared with your support were really informative and enlightening. In the documentary, there's a reference that people often plan more for a vacation than for their retirement. What perspectives or approaches have you seen help people navigate this phase more intentionally?
That is so true. People do spend more time planning their vacation than they do their retirement. They spend more time planning a 2-week sojourn than they do a 20 or more year reality. And that math doesn't add up in our society. People need to spend time reflecting and anticipating what their retirement lifestyle will look like. So I suggest if you're on the cusp of retirement, taking some time to sit, reflect, maybe go for walks, spend quiet time with yourself, and make notes on what you envision for your retirement. What will it look like? Write down some objectives and some action items to follow up on to really bring that vision to reality. And think about your lifestyle, your occupation, not just your nest egg, not just your retirement funds. Spend time thinking about your lifestyle. I think that people, as they are thinking about their redirection, they may have been in a job, they may have done paid work that has not fulfilled them, that they've just done it for the paycheck. And redirection is a time for people to pursue what really interests them, what's meaningful to them. They might not have ever really taken the time to figure out what that is because they've always taken work to meet other people's expectations. And if not now, then when? Now's the time to embrace your redirection and figure out what your next challenge is. I think it is possible to find work that is rewarding. And so if you haven't found that yet, then keep searching. And also sometimes people need to create their own work, find self-employment or consulting opportunities, do something that's really meaningful. And going back to what I studied before, which was volunteer work, some people find a great deal of fulfillment giving back to the community and volunteering. And that's another way to feed your soul.
Such an important call out and one I can reflect on myself because I love vacation planning. It's just trying to do the math, but to really think through what's going to bring you day-to-day joy and inspiration as well. Thank you. Suzanne, you've talked about individuals pursuing work at later stages of their life, whether that's volunteer, whether it's out of necessity. And there's been an underlying theme around the importance of connection and contributions. Wondering if you can speak to why it's so important for individuals.
The research I've conducted on redirection indicates that about 50% of people are redirecting to find greater fulfillment and purpose with their paid work because they want to be passionate about what they're doing. They want to continue using their skills and abilities and giving back. And then the other 50% of people are continuing to work in later life because of financial need. So they are looking for what comes next in order to pay the bills. It's about split 50-50. I think both reasons are important for seeking a redirection, whichever side of that you fall on. Both are good reasons, and older workers have a lot to offer. They need to be in an organization that appreciates them for what they contribute, what they bring. If we can shift that, that would be wonderful. Have more organizations that are open-minded about hiring older workers and supporting their career progression.
How could organizations, from your perspective, better support those later in their careers?
Organizations can do more to support people with this stage. And unfortunately, there is a big barrier to this. There's ageism. Ageism is an ism in the workplace. Ageism affects hiring, promotions, and retention decisions. It's one of the last socially acceptable forms of prejudice in our society. And organizations could begin seeing older workers as an asset, as a resource, as the talent that they are, rather than holding ageist attitudes towards them. So when someone turns 60 or 65, they don't have a best before date on their forehead. And so we have to combat age discrimination against older workers. I really recommend education and training for managers and human resources professionals as a start. One thing that hiring managers can do is be more open-minded about people when they're hiring. Don't just assume that an older person is going to retire next year. If they're applying for a position, they really want that job. And if they have the skills and knowledge and experience to do the job, then please don't dismiss them just because you look at them and think, oh, they must be 40 or 50. The age seems to get younger and younger, where there's an attitude cutoff that says, oh, this person's old, I don't want them. So I think hiring managers need to be more open-minded. And I really want people to think and realize that someday you also hope to turn 65 or 70. You hope to live that long as well. And how would you like to be treated? Do you want to be dismissed or invisible just because of your age? I really think we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the older worker. And that will help to generate the awareness we need to change this situation.
Thank you, Suzanne. earlier conversation we had with Lisa Taylor from the Challenge Factory cited research that most organizations stop talking to people about their careers at around age 50. And that much of the conversation or the stereotypes that apply to older workers are based on bias rather than reality. And if you stop talking to anybody about their inspirations and interests, they are likely going to be less motivated and encouraged to give it their all within the workplace.
Yes, people suddenly become invisible, unfortunately. And we need to change that. They need to be seen as the talent that they are and to be uplifted, and their careers can continue.
So you note that, and your research found that so much of this is being driven by individual passion, imperative, necessity to shift, to redefine what their later career looks like, what their contributions to the community looks like. Have you seen any broader shifts that give you optimism that we are improving, we're on the path to improve?
What gives me optimism about this stage is the resiliency of the people who are navigating it. It's really their enthusiasm and passion for finding what comes next that is really inspiring and gives me hope, and how they're able to find like-minded others to support. They support each other and do amazing things, share their accomplishments, and really continue on. It's resiliency.
Thank you. And that's telling, right? It's coming back once again to the individual navigating this well on their own and relying on their internal resources and resiliency and perseverance. Do you have thoughts on how we can do better at a societal level, even at a high level? Suzanne, what would policy improvements look like?
It goes back to creating awareness and combating ageism. Ageism is embedded in our institutions, and that's where we need to start to shift things. So policy and programs around combating ageism are really needed. We need people to work together and collaborate and partner to make change and come up with some innovative and creative ideas. But it starts with combating ageism and age discrimination.
Thank you. Just to underline, the most fundamental shift needed is around mindset and how we engage directly with individuals and how we support them on their own individual path that's in line with their interests and aspirations and values. Suzanne, this has been a short conversation. How are listeners best to connect with you or to learn more about your work?
I would love to talk to people who are interested in redirection, and they can reach me at Suzanne, Suzanne, at carpevitam.ca. Carpe Vitam is CARPEVITAM.ca.
Thank you. Really grateful for your time. It's been really interesting. And I would absolutely suggest that individuals tune into your documentary, Redirection, Movers, Shakers, and Shifters. It's a wonderful collection and highlighting of individuals navigating this stage with such resilience as you describe.
Thanks for that shout out. I appreciate it. I am thinking of doing a second documentary, actually, just starting to put together things towards that goal.
I hope you found this conversation with Dr. Suzanne Cook as thought-provoking as I did. I love that she challenges a deeply ingrained assumption that careers have an endpoint, a stark end, and that we are invited to consider what it means to continue growing and finding purpose at every stage of life. I also appreciate being made aware of how many feel that they are navigating this path all on their own, and that there's an important opportunity for organizations to step up and for society to do more in supporting individuals at this important stage of life. I'm Pauline James, and I'd love to hear what today's episode brought to mind for you. What might your own redirection look like? Connect with me on LinkedIn or through our Anchor HR community. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join me next time as we continue reimagining work and life on our own terms.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.